Caitlin from Nerd Turtle.
DC Wolf.
Cobra.
Swizzard.
EBG2.
So on today's segment, we'll be talking about good and bad stories at conventions that we've been to. So I'll start off by saying, 2 years ago at AwesomeCon, I was dressed as Esmeralda. You know, it was a day like any other, you know, taking pictures with fans. It was all good, you know, everything was great. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, along comes a guy dressed as Hulk. But not just any Hulk, but super sweaty on some sort of like steroids Hulk who comes closer and he's asking to take my picture. So okay. And you know, Eric's standing next to me and our other friend Derek, they're standing there, they're just like watching everything that's going on. And then he starts asking for some weird pictures and he's like asking me to cross my eyes in pictures and he's getting all close up with his camera. And then he says, "Hey, can I pick you up in the picture?" And I'm thinking, oh gosh, what is happening? What has my life come to? After just making fun of the posters I saw around the cosplay isn't consent, and I was like, oh, if you're dressed a slutty costume, then you're asking for it. And then I realized this was karma. This was karma coming around and biting me in the ass. And so, for some odd reason, I let this guy pick me up, and my friend takes a picture on his phone. And he's still sweating, and like his sweat is getting on me. And
Was it green sweat?
Green sweat was dripping onto my.
And didn't
my
when
costume.
he asked you to cross your eyes, you just told him that you didn't know how to? I don't think I know how to.
Yeah, just to get out of the situation. And it was awful. But good. Another awkward con story is we were at New York Comic Con and, you know, some guy came over like he wanted to take our picture. And he comes over and then after like a few like awkward poses and we're realizing that he doesn't have a friend who's taking a picture of us. He's just expecting some person to take a picture of us from this crowd of people who are already standing there. So then he's asking us, "Hey, can you send me a picture of us to me on my phone?" And it just makes for this really awkward transaction. It was pretty great. But with those two stories being said, I still feel like most con experiences are good and not bad con stories.
I've got a couple of like line related stories. So initially at AwesomeCon this year, we were sitting in the line for Adam West. And unfortunate circumstances. He was a nice guy, but we wound up behind this guy who talked entirely too much, and we stood there for an hour while he started a nonstop conversation about all of the various Batman memorabilia that he brought for Adam West to sign. And his dad was here for one day from Raleigh, and you know he came to get his one of a kind album signed, and I brought this, and I brought this book, and I brought this, and he just kept going on and on. And he wanted to know why we were there in line, and so I kind of told him. Various awkward pauses as I tried to look in opposite directions and not make eye contact to try to stop the conversation. But he just kept going and going. And eventually it paused until his dad finally showed up and jumped in the line with him. And then he started the conversation all over again, like from moment one. And was like recapping the whole thing for his father. And I was just like, eventually we got up on our photo shoot time. We're like, look, we gotta go, bye. And we kind of peaced out. So that was a little weird. Then the other sort of positive story, we were standing in line again for some signatures for some photos of Brett Dalton and Elizabeth Henstridge. And there was this really nice girl who had moved here from England. She had a pretty good Yoko cosplay, so we're gonna call her Yoko Girl because I don't actually know what her name is. But it was just pretty cool to like meet somebody like, you know, from overseas and stuff like that and have a decent conversation that was actually interesting and not running for 3 years.
And creepy.
And super creepy, yeah.
Alright, well, one of mine, good ones, honestly, is was at New York, year 2015, was walking through and looked over and we saw Tom McFarlane being interviewed by another media source. And so I paused and started watching the conversation and all that stuff. And it was, for me, it was fun because Tom McFarlane being probably my favorite artist. Anyway, and at the end, he started handing out free stuff. He handed out like free figures from the Walking Dead series, his toy line. And he also had a Game of Thrones like playset. It was actually Iron Throne playset. And he just looked around and decided to see if there was, you know, any fans, I guess, to give to. And me having a Spawn tattoo was pointed out by him. And he came over to me, got to meet him, got a picture with him, and he gave me the playset, which he, from his words, saying I was the first person in the country to physically get this playset. So that, on top of meeting him, him and Stan Lee are my top two favorite people, like art, like comic book wise, and I got to meet them both. So that's a good one. Another good one, when I was cosplaying as Dr. Facilier, I was walking through, and this little boy comes up to me, and he basically is stuttering, basically because he says he's such a huge fan of the character that he couldn't even say like words. He couldn't put a sentence together because how excited he was to see someone dressed as this character, and he really wanted a picture with me and all that stuff. And his mom came over, and I was one of those, like, because I was not expecting that. I was just dressed up as character walking around, and then ended up making this, I guess, seem to be like this kid's day and stuff. So that was a good one. That was awesome. I can't really think of any bad ones off the top of my head.
I have another heartwarming one before Eric tells the best story ever. I just wanted to say that there was one time we were doing a most cosplayers in a place all at once. And you know, the Guinness Book of World Records was going to be there, and so we were dressed up in costume, and Eric was Thor, and I was Supergirl, and we had a Daredevil and Rorschach, and so we're walking down and Gambit. So we're walking down next to the Capitol, and my mom's behind us, and she's like, Caitlin, wait up. So a little boy and a little girl were together, and they're yelling out, Thor, go take a picture. But Thor didn't hear because his helmet was too thick, and he couldn't hear all the noise.
It covers my ears. I can't really hear it.
But you know what? That day, Supergirl came in, and she saved the day. She took the picture with the kids, and they were so happy. So, what Thor couldn't do, Supergirl.
That's why Thor was just waste.
The thing is, like, that's the great thing about going to the cons is, like, you know, with having Tristan there, like, wanting to take pictures with, like, the women that were dressed up as Merida, like, that was awesome. Like, he loves Brave. You know, and even all the, you know, Spider-Man and Captain America is, like, just that everybody's, like, willing to do that with the kids because they know, like, the kids obviously get there's somebody dressed up as that superhero, but it's still special for them because they're taking a picture, like, with their hero.
And they even drop in the character for the kids.
Yeah, for the kids they do. Yeah. And it's just really cool. It's nice to see.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
Some fun experiences I guess I had included was for New York Comic Con back in 2014. I remember spending like 2 weeks trying to make my own Star-Lord helmet out of cardboard and using this tutorial, and it was just, you know, hard and annoying, but I finally made it. And then, you know, when I finally was able to dress up as Star-Lord for the con, it was fun to go around taking pictures with other people who request to take pictures with me and all that. So a fun experience. I guess another fun standout moment for me was at I guess New York Comic Con 2014 again was when I won a drawing to meet the creators of, you know, Last Airbender and the Korra series, as well as the voice actress who did Korra herself, Janet Varney, and that was a pretty fun experience, just meeting them, chatting with them, and getting them to sign stuff. And I guess for bad experiences, now this one's pretty memorable. Me and the rest of the Nerd Turtle team were dressed up as the Super Smash Bros. Characters, and at the Baltimore Comic Con in 2015. I was Ness, and then when we were walking around, this girl, she came up to us and, you know, requested to take a photo with us, and then we all complied and we all got on our poses, and then she just looked at me directly and it's like, I don't like how you're posing. So she grabbed me by the shoulder and pushed me down and said, you stay there. And I was like scared. It's like, okay. She took her picture. I was like, thank you. And then she went on her merry way.
And
So I'm going to segue into that one
best story
because I have more
ever.
to say about her. We all meet strange people at conventions. And so, you know, sometimes you meet people at multiple conventions. You keep meeting like people you've seen before, and sometimes you meet those same strange people at multiple conventions, like they're following you around. And I was with her when she assaulted multiple of my friends to take a picture exactly how she wanted and went off. I just didn't expect when I saw her again that she would just take my drink out of my hand and ask for it at the same time and just start drinking it. I was drinking a Frappuccino, paid like $7 for it because it was upcharged because, you know, we were at a convention. And, you know, she gave it back to me. I didn't really want it anymore.
So what you're saying is the frat burglar returned it to you.
If that, you know,
She was testing. She was a fret taster.
but then I don't know. Like by the third time I see her, and she just kind of like appeared
At a different convention.
Yeah,
a year
I was
later.
at Awesome Con, this most recent one, and she just kind of appeared behind me like out of nowhere. Like I don't even understand, and she was next to me.
Like a wild frat burglar has appeared.
And I think she started talking to me about whatever I was looking at, and then she asked about my drink, and I kind of like held it tighter, held it away from her. And then fortunately my friend came up and I was like, this is the person. And I just kind of like, we just kind of went off and she went away again. And it's like, she doesn't recognize us, I don't think. Yeah, it's very, very interesting experience. Sometimes you have with people. You know, as far as the positive, I don't know, like, there's a lot. I have a lot because I've been to so many conventions now. In general, like, if you like cosplaying, do group cosplaying, get a group and go out. And especially when people like it and they recognize it. What was that movie one we did?
You're Next.
You're Next. I've never had so many people, and Caitlin doing Carrie with us. So while we were doing a horror combination, like as a group cosplay, we got, I don't know, we didn't go more than 5 steps without being asked to take a picture, and it was really, I don't know, it was really cool. It was flattering in a way, like, because our hard work kind of paid off in that case.
And I remember before we went there, like, people were saying that we probably weren't even going to recognize you.
Yeah, we didn't think anyone would recognize us. We were recognized quite a bit, and someone who was even involved in the movie was there, and we got posted on a lot of social media and stuff. We were like the #1 search thing for a while.
He says we were the best Your Next cosplay that he's seen.
Yeah.
I will say that is another great memory of a convention, is walking around New York covered in like fake blood and letting people stare at you thinking that you're actually like dying or something. I'll never forget coming down the stairs at the hotel and the concierge standing behind the desk is like picking up a phone like, oh my god, I have to call 911.
And well, yeah, when you're walking down the streets and people who aren't aware of a convention in town, like when you were doing
Alice in Wonderland.
No, when you guys were Deadpool and Shikla, and everyone thought that you were getting married, and people were honking their horns as we're walking down the road.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And both did it in New York, and we also did it in DC. And both times people were like waving by. We did look like we were getting married because of the dress and everything, but that was pretty exciting. Special treatment.
Yeah. My worry is because I'm trying to go as obviously Deadshot this year at New York, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to pack everything. I'm not gonna be able to walk down the street wearing any of this stuff, in New York, So I'm gonna have to literally put on my book bag, walk up there, hopefully I'm able, when they check it, place, everything's okay because I cannot walk.
Hey, I'm going as Deathstroke. I'm gonna go with the foam katana and airsoft gun.
I'm going as Gigantus. I'll be naked. I won't have any problem getting anywhere, I don't think.
Like New York Comic Con I was going to, they had what are those guys Prometheus called?
Engineers?
The engineers, yeah. Someone went. Do you remember the engineers?
Yeah.
Someone went cosplay as him. So that's all. He's just wearing a loincloth. Okay, and this is October. Okay, it's cold outside. So you see him put on a jacket before he leaves and all that stuff. He comes. Yeah, you look good as the character. But yeah, I was like
CGI abs.
Yeah, I guess so. Right in the middle of the lobby of New York Comic Con. Yeah. So yeah, you're probably gonna be cold.
Do want to say that one good thing about having a community in the cosplay and the con circuit that goes around is that you do see some nice and normal and not creepy people all the time.
Right.
Like Constantine, who we've seen at like every convention for the last 2 years that we've gone. We just keep seeing him, and he keeps reappearing as different characters.
And there's the Black Panther guy.
Yeah, Black Panther and the Bishop guy.
The Bishop
so
and
shout out to you guys if you're listening, because we definitely look forward to seeing you every year.
Also, your name is Black Panther guy.
Yes, exactly. One of the thousands of Black Panther.
The guy I'm thinking of, he was Bishop 1 year.
Yeah.
He was Icon 1 year.
We talked to him outside of a con before.
It's just great, everybody mixes, gets along, and that common interest is just talk about. With everything else that goes on in the world, when you're at the con, it never feels like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's an escape.
And it's people of different backgrounds, different economic classes, race, everything, and it's just everybody gets along and everybody's nice to each other. It's how we should be every day outside of the convention.
Yeah.
And it's
everybody wants to be friends with everybody.
Right.
In a way.
This year at Awesome Con, we stood in line to take the photo op with Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman, and the lines were ridiculously long, but you were able to by standing in line, you were able to talk to and meet people that you may not have otherwise, outside of the convention, had a single conversation with them other than hello in passing, And you got to actually talk to people and get to know them, and it's cool.
The fact that we're all there fans of something, we can connect with, people and this stuff.
Yeah.
That time we went as You're Next, we happened to see someone else dressed as You're Next, that was
a less awesome version.
Well, yeah, we were were much better. It's fact. Not opinion, it's fact.
Like in the other carry that we saw, it was like Bush League, man.
But it was, like I said, it's a common interest between everybody there, so
It's a good feeling.
yeah.
Definitely everyone feels like welcome in the con convention. There's no bullying. Whatever happens outside of the con or whatever your home life may be, then at least you can be who you are at the convention and maybe even make some new friends or meet a significant other if you do the speed dating. Which
Yeah.
I'd love to just be a fly on the wall.
And most people who go to that because they keep doing them.
They seem pretty popular. I walk by the rooms, there's a lot of people.
Yeah. Do we have any more negative stuff? We talked a lot.
I guess a bad story didn't happen to me directly, but like I had mentioned before, we were in line talking to Yoko Girl, and she told us that she has a tattoo of like a peacock that sort of went down her side, and she said she had ran into several people apparently who, one, they asked to take photos with her, normal, whatever, but then proceeded to comment about how her tattoo sort of ruined the cosplay because the anime character doesn't have a tattoo, and so her tattoo kind of like affected the cosplay, and she probably should have covered it with makeup. She was like totally flabbergasted and was like, you know, that just doesn't happen in England. Like, is that something like in America that happens a lot? And I'm like, people are just weird.
People are just assholes in America. It's fine.
And she's like, but everybody's been so nice. And I'm like, you've only been here for how long? Just wait. Just wait.
Also, you are just as Yoko.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't say that, but I was thinking.
I'm surprised no one ever said that to me about when I was Luke Cage or something, and because I have tattoos, of course, and Luke Cage, of course, has no tattoos, but...
Yeah, I was
get
surprised.
tattoos.
She said she had a couple different people comment on that same thing, like, your tattoo kind of ruins the costume.
Maybe it's because of the character. I wonder if that has anything to do, because obviously people cherish Yoko, and, you know...
It could be, and that's the only thing I could kind of like come up with, like, yeah, people are weird about their anime characters.
Yeah.
sometimes.
Your waifu isn't real. I just want you to know.
Sorry to burst your bubble, sir. Or ma'am.
Which makes me kind of hesitant to say another word, but I'm doing it even though...
If somebody says that to either me or anybody in my group, I'll punch someone in the face and be like, cosplay's not consent, get the f*** away.
I knew we couldn't get through a whole session without an F-bomb being dropped.
Oh, we got two of them.
This is Caitlin signing out.
This is DC Wolf.
Cobra.
Swizzard.
EBG2.
Thanks for listening, Nerdles. Geek
Geek out.
out.